What's up, everybody? My name is Shannon, and I am still waiting for my Satyr, and today we are continuing on with our reread of The Trials of Apollo with Book 3, The Burning Maze by Rick Riordan. So, I am rereading the series in preparation for the Tower of Nero, which we are getting dangerously close to, and I just want to say, there are going to be spoilers in this video. This is the main book in the series that you do not want to be spoiled on. If you have not read The Trials of Apollo, and you are watching this video, I do have a spoiler-free review. I will link it above. Go and watch that, go read the book, and then come back here. I do also have a discussion video where I'm probably going to repeat a lot of the same things here in this video, but I just want to say, this is the book that you do not want to be spoiled on, so go read the book, come back here, and then let's talk about some things. So I talked about this when I reread The Dark Prophecy. I didn't really like it. It just didn't really grab me. It was kind of hard for me to get through, so I was worried about this series and worried that I wasn't gonna like it as much as some of Rick Riordan's other books. But when I got to The Burning Maze, things completely changed. This book is where things really start to get serious, and I feel like it finally has settled in and it's really found its rhythm. We start off with this book inside the labyrinth. We are being led to basically Camp Jupiter. We're kind of going in that direction by Grover Underwood. Finally, we get to see him again. It's him, Meg, and Apollo in this maze, and when they emerge, we are learning that there is a lot of bad stuff going on. Part of the maze is on fire. It's basically burning all of Southern California, and it's really affecting the nature spirits and the dryads. I really love this because Meg is a child of Demeter, and we get to learn a lot more about her history because of where we are, because of what her father was doing, who these dryads are that we meet. I really loved getting to dig in more to her backstory because I feel like we started to get a little bit of it in the first book, and then with the second book, it was just a lot of action. I do think Apollo learned a lot of things kind of about family and about belonging, about immortality, but it just didn't stick and it just didn't resonate the way that I feel like this book does, because we do get to see a lot more with Meg. We get to see her basically returning home again and kind of realizing her purpose and her father's purpose and who she is, which I really appreciate. I did major in plant and soil science in college, so I appreciate all of the botany talk. It's really awesome. But alongside that, we are also meeting back up with Jason and Piper because they have been questing alongside looking for Leo, all that kind of stuff. They've really been investigating kind of what was going on with this burning maze, and something happened that kind of separated them. So when they go off and they find, Piper again, things are not going well for Piper. She is definitely struck off on her own. Her father is basically losing everything, and they are moving out of the LA area. But it doesn't really seem to be affecting her in a down kind of way. If anything, she's kind of happy to be rediscovering her Cherokee roots and learning more about herself outside of her Greek ancestry. And I think that's kind of where this rift with Jason comes in, because we do find out that he was keeping secrets from her, from what he learned in the maze, but she was kind of starting to realize that she has never been just Piper herself, and she kind of feels her love life was being manipulated by the gods because Jason lost her memory, she lost her memory, their whole relationship basically was fabricated by the goddess of marriage, and then she was claimed by the goddess of love, and she just doesn't feel like her relationship with Jason was ever quite what she wanted it to be. And they are still in a good place friend-wise, I believe, but she really needed to kind of go off and be on her own and do her own thing. And I really appreciate that with Piper. I think that was so amazing, a move to see that in her character development. And I also love to see how independent and sure of herself she is. And she's also a very messy and complicated character. In this book, we see her go through a lot of different emotions. I feel like this is a much more mature Piper than we ever saw in the Heroes of Olympus series. I think Rick Riordan was really doing something when he decided to include Piper in this book. Of course, along with Piper, we do get Jason. We do find out that Jason learned from the oracle in the center of the maze that if he and Piper continued on this path, if and when Apollo came to them for help looking for this emperor, trying to find this oracle, one of them was going to die. And he didn't tell Piper that. He didn't want her to know. And he knew this was gonna happen, and he was sitting on this information for a while. We are told from the very beginning of this book that something tragic is going to happen. It's also dedicated to the Muse of Tragedy, which I feel should have been a big kicker, a big indicator that something was gonna happen. And it is that about 3/4 of the way through this book, Jason Grace dies. And here's the thing, like, we have dealt with character death with Rick Riordan before, and I was thinking about this a lot. Like, we did have Zoe Nightshade, and we did have Luke. We do have some people as well in book 5 of the original Percy Jackson series, but like, basically what I'm getting at here is that they aren't like main cast characters. Like, Jason was like a main character, and his death is like really felt in this book. And I wouldn't say that it's like out of character for Rick Riordan to do major character death, but I would say like this is the first time we see him do it, and I really like the way that he approaches it, because he does like get you ready for it. Like, the first time I read this book, it did take me by surprise. I was very shocked that he killed Jason Grayson, like he was for sure never coming back. But when I was reading it again, I did notice that there are these cues, like he has been setting up for it, and like you can see that Jason is very at peace with the fact that he's gonna have to make this heroic sacrifice. And the reason this is in the book, and the reason that it happens, is for Apollo. Because up until this point, Apollo is still thinking a lot like a god. He did learn a lot about like giving up immortality and like staying with the ones that you love in the Dark Prophecy, but in this book, I think it's really like cemented that gods do not care about mortals, like at all. They may think that they do sometimes, but they really don't. They take their sacrifices for granted all the time. And when he thinks of like being a hero, he never thinks like of this heroic sacrifice and what cost these heroes are paying in order for the gods to keep doing what they're doing. So to be faced with Jason Grace's death and to know that it is like his fault, like he is the reason Jason Grace is dead, it means a lot for Apollo. And then on top of that, he sees Piper grieve and mourn, and she is angry and very passionate character to see that life gone. That means so much for Apollo's character. And Jason Grace charged Apollo with his mission, saying like, if I die, like, you need to continue on my mission. You need to make sure that nobody is forgotten. None of the gods are pushed aside. None of their kids are pushed aside. You have to remember. And at the end of this book, that is what Apollo says. He says, I am Apollo and I would remember. Like, he is not going to let these sacrifices be for granted. He is not going to take these sacrifices in vain anymore. Like, he knows that they have to step up and they have to do better. And that is so amazing. Like, Rick Riordan is really doing something special with the Apollo character, and like seeing this god like being cast down and turned into a mortal, and like learning how to be mortal and like live amongst these people, live amongst these campers, live amongst his children. Like, this is the book where I think things really turn around for Apollo. And I remember starting the next book in the series, and it starts off with them like transporting Jason's body, and it just, Apollo is still really feeling it. Like, this is very serious. Like, things have changed now. And if more than anything, like reading this book, I'm very excited to see where that's going to be taken when we get to the Tower of Nero. Because even in this book, like, Apollo is very afraid of death because he doesn't know what it means for him to die. Like, it's never been like a fear for him. And now suddenly he can die. So he's very afraid of it now. But he did threaten to take his own life so that these other campers and like Meg and Jason and everybody would not die. And he actually was going to go through with it. So I'm really interested to see what's going to happen when we face all of the emperors in the last book, when we face Python in the last book, like what's going to happen with Apollo, and what's going to happen if he does become a god again. Because in this book as well, we see him confront Helios, who, you know, he was the old like god of the sun, like he was the titan of the sun, and we see like him make promises. We see continuously over and over this theme in these books of Apollo making these promises but then breaking them, and like Styx has cursed him because he keeps making these promises and not living up to them. And now I think he is going to try to do his best to make these promises, to keep these promises, and to remember these demigods. So I truly love The Burning Maze. I think it is probably one of my favorites, just like of Rick Riordan in general. Like, I really love seeing the work that goes into Apollo's character. I love seeing Meg return home. I love seeing her kind of come into herself. Like, I think there's still a lot of stuff that we kind of need to unpack with her when it comes to like her stepfather and all that kind of stuff. But when it came to like reclaiming like her home and like who she is and like her father, it was really interesting to see that. And we also get a line from her in this book where she says, you know, like, why was my mom never here? Like, why is she never, like, appeared to me? Like, why not? And Apollo has no comforting words for her because he knows it's just because she's not thinking about her. It's just because she has other things that she's doing that Meg doesn't matter to her. And that, again, really affects Apollo to know that, like, this person who is already meaning, like, so much to him is inconsequential to somebody else. So I love The Burning Maze. This is getting an A+ again from me, and I am so excited to move on to the next book in the series because it's Reyna, and we get to learn so many amazing things about Reyna. I love The Tyrant's Tomb so much. So good. So if you stuck around and you haven't read this series, I do recommend that you do. It's pretty great, even though I did spoil a lot of things for you. And if you have read the series, I hope you are reading along with me, and I hope you are just as excited as I am to start The Tyrant's Tomb again. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit that like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe so you can talk books with me every week. That is everything I got for today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!